Hey guys, so last lesson we talked about how to calculate the variance and the standard deviation by hand, which is good to know just so you know what exactly it's measuring. But with statistics, usually you have a large sample or you're comparing two different things, so calculating things by hand does get really tedious and probably not the best thing to do. So usually I would show you how to do it in your calculator, but since we don't all have the same calculators, I'm just going to pull up a website that we'll use to help us calculate all of these things. If you do have your calculator at home, you could easily Google, how to find standard deviation in TI-84. And there'll be several YouTube videos or step-by-step instructions if you would rather use that. But you can use this website as well. And so that's what we'll use for pretty much the rest of the unit. If we have to find standard deviation, you don't have to find it by hand anymore. Just go ahead and use the technology. Okay, so it's going to be real simple. We'll just copy and paste our numbers into that website and it'll spit out all of these statistics, which will make it really nice on us. So we're just doing two quick problems. So number one says 2 RHS pitchers are being scouted by a baseball coach from the University of Georgia. He asked you to help him deciding which pitcher should have a better fastball. Both pitchers threw 10 pitches and the speed of their pitches are shown below. Find the descriptive statistics for both pitchers, then calculate who you think would be the best pitcher. So we're going to find everything, which makes it nice so you can see the statistics for each person at one time. So I'm going to copy this, and I already have this pulled up. I'll go ahead and click on it. So click on that link, and it should look like this. Okay, nothing too fancy here. And I'm going to paste those numbers in there. And this is important. It says, is your data from a population or a sample? So right now we're just saying that this is our population. These are all the pitches that we're worried about. It's not coming from a larger set of data. When we get into later in the unit, then we'll talk about what samples are and how that changes the calculation of standard deviation. So just make sure it stays on population. Press submit data. Okay, and it gives you a lot of information here. So I'm going to write it on my paper while I read it off the screen. So your mean, and remember that little symbol right there, that's the Greek mu, is 82. Our median is 84. There's no mode. Our lowest value is 67, highest value 92. Our range is 25. Interquartile range, that's Q3 minus Q1. If you're curious, we're not really going to use that, but third quartile is 88.75, so Q3. And our first quartile, or Q1, is 75.5. Okay. Our variance, remember that's kind of the square of the standard deviation, so our variance is 63.8. And then our standard deviation, that little sigma symbol, okay, is 7.987. I'll just go ahead and write down a few statistics there. Okay, so I wrote all those down on my paper. Then I'm going to go back and get picture 2's data. Okay, and I believe you can just go down to the bottom. I'm going to delete those and paste in picture 2. Okay, still population, and now here's my new data. So our mean is 82, median is 81.5. Our mode is 80. Our range is 5. Q1 is 80. Q3 is 84. Variance is 3.2. And then our standard deviation is 1.789 if I round that up. Okay, so if you look at the data, I went ahead and wrote it on here so I don't have to go back and type it. You can see their mean is the same. Okay, so they both have the same average here. But if you look at their variance and standard deviation, you should notice something. This variance is 63.8. This one's 3.2. Okay, this standard deviation is 7.9, and this one is 1.78. So when we're talking about standard deviation, remember that's how spread out your data is, or how far away on average your points are from the mean. So for picture 1, his on average could be about 8 miles per hour away from the mean. In picture 2, his on average are only about 1.7 or 1.8 away from the mean. So picture 2 is way more consistent than picture 1. Okay, even though they have the same mean, if you're looking for consistency, then picture 2 would be more consistent. And there are ways to argue the other picture. It's not necessarily that being consistent is always the best. Sometimes it's good to be inconsistent because if you're a pitcher, maybe you want some that are fast and some that are slow. But these are just fastballs, so we want them to be consistent on this point. Okay, so as long as you can back it up with your data, that's what you're looking for. Remember, standard deviation is what tells you consistency. Okay, your mean would be an average if you're comparing the average. So on your practice, it'll ask you which statistic proves this. Usually it's your standard deviation if it's talking about your consistency. These other things are just extra numbers that we could go to if we needed it. Okay? And then our second thing I just wanted us to look at is what to do if we had a frequency table, because we'll be doing some dot plots and things like that, and what that represents. So if we have a data with repeated numbers, we can construct a frequency table to help our data in the calculator. In your TI-84s, you actually can enter a frequency table, but on this, we're not going to be able to. So we just need to know, like, what does this frequency table tell us? Okay, so this first column right here where it says X sub I, that's your data point. Okay, so these are the actual numbers in your data set. Frequency is how many times that number occurs. Okay, so number of times it occurs. So if you have the same numbers happening over and over again, okay, it makes it easier to put it in a frequency table instead of listing it out or in a dot plot, which is pretty much a frequency table as well. So if I'm listing out the data to use my website in, this means I have 4 2s. So I'm going to have to type my 2 4 times. Okay, then I have 3 3s. So I'm going to have to type 3 3 times. I have 2 4s. And then I have 1 5. Okay, so don't just type 2 3 4 5. There are multiple of each of those. So we'll go to our website and then we're going to type these in. So 2 2 2 2, 3 3 3, 4 4 5. Okay, and then we'll get our data. So our mean is 3, our median is 3, mode is 2, our range, which is your highest minus your lowest, is 3, and then our standard deviation is 1. Okay, so usually we're just looking for the standard deviation, and the mean and median are kind of our common ones, as well as the range. The variance is just kind of what you calculate along the way. So really focus in on those, the standard deviation and the mean, and kind of get used to what those symbols look like. Okay, so y'all are free to use this during your practice. I would screenshot one of them just so I can make sure you know how to use the website. If you can't screenshot it, that's fine, but just so I can see that you're using the website to get your numbers. But then use those numbers to actually see what they represent as well. Okay, so let me know if this doesn't work for you. If you need an alternate way of calculating it, I try to look through and find something super easy. But hope you guys are doing well, and pay attention to that new schedule. I do have an office hour on Friday from 8 to 9 if you need any help on anything. Okay, thanks.